Absolutely.
I'm just quickly going to get a view in from Dr. Anish Shah, Group CEO and MD of Mahindra Group. Dr. Shah, thank you so much for joining in. I mean, we've heard your thoughts pre-budget and it was a push for growth. Do you think the Finance Minister has delivered on those aspirations?
Hi, good afternoon, Tamanna. Yes, the Finance Minister has delivered. This is an excellent budget from a growth standpoint. We see a number of very important foundation elements of building blocks because the budget focuses on infrastructure, which is a very key aspect for us as we think about getting manufacturing to be more competitive in India. It focuses on inclusion of SMEs in a much bigger way in manufacturing. And with Atmanirbharta, the rare earth corridor, and more importantly, inclusion with a wider participation, the benefits of economic growth with small and marginal farmers, women, capacity building for youth, all of these make it, in our view, an excellent budget.
Sharp, in the sense that you know that rating agencies are rewarding you for the hard work that you've done on the fiscal glide path, so on and so forth, and with the limited resources available, do you think what the government of the FM is trying to say that the budget will effectively be a statement of accounts, trying to do the minimal? There's a lot of room beyond the budget as well. So don't look at this as the only be all and end all.
Yes, and Nikhil, that's been the case over the past few years because the budget has always been growth oriented. It has focused on capital expenditure, which is the case this time as well. And it's important for us to look at India getting on a very strong path towards continued economic growth. That's when India is going to start taking center stage in the world. And this is one big step in that direction.
There's some uptick in the outlay for auto ancillaries. It's a small base, of course, from 2,000 to 5,000 is not really large, but in some sense there is there. There are a lot of things happening beyond the budget in that space as well with the India-EU FTA, so on and so forth. Would you have hope for some more specific announcements for the auto and the auto ancillary sector that didn't come, or that's fine?
So I think, Nikhil, India has passed the era when a budget gives a fillip to a certain sector. Our sectors have to be competitive globally. And from an auto standpoint, I would tell us we are competitive globally. So the budget has to set India up to be more competitive from a manufacturing standpoint where we can make in India for the world. And the ecosystem that's built is what's required. The EU FTA we see as a very positive step because I think it's been a very fine balance in terms of ensuring that companies in Europe set up manufacturing plants in India. That is an essential part. And I do think that the government's done a very nice job in terms of setting up the EU FTA where that will happen. From a competitive standpoint in the auto industry, it really doesn't matter because the FTA does not allow any of the vehicles to come in to be sold cheaper than vehicles that are sold in India right now because manufacturing in India is being done by most foreign makers. And therefore, overall, what we see here is a path to building sustainable long-term growth for India. The foundation in terms of the building blocks that are required for infrastructure, for logistics, for other items to make India competitive are being put in place. And that is what we would want as a sector.
Reiterate that question and you just make it more specific. There were concerns that Indian OEMs and also among them your group would be hit by the India-EU FTA. And if people have more choice, then perhaps you'd lose your competitive edge. Is there no threat of that even as India continues to ink more bilateral treatments across the world?
No threat of that at all. And in fact, there was an analyst report that shared those concerns, but was updated a couple of days later as more information came in. And as I said, we compete with all the foreign makers in India. And it's not possible for someone today to make a car in Europe and send it here and sell it cheaper than it is available in India. What the FTA does, though, it opens up the European market for us. And therefore, we see this as growth in the Indian market, which will make us even more competitive and therefore is a positive for us. So while there has been some initial commentary when all the facts were not in place, I think when the facts came in, we see this as a huge positive from our standpoint.
And just one last point, Dr. Shah. To your mind, what was the biggest highlight of the budget? One thing where you said, okay, India is talking the talk which we need to right now in the context of what's happening geopolitically?
There were multiple highlights, Tamanna, but the one that I personally liked was the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. I think everyone needs to be part of the economic growth story. We're going to see very significant economic growth. India will add $5 trillion to the GDP in this decade. And from that perspective, it is important that everyone's part of that story. And I think that is been a highlight of this budget and continued actions that have been taken by the government over the past few years.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Shah, for joining in and, speaking with us today after this budget. I think an important reiteration there also coming in on what is going to be the impact for the domestic auto industry because of the EU-India FTA. I want to just pull up